Hello, I'm Madeline Tynan from the Tynan Motor Group, and today I am here with Mayor Kevin Greene. How are you, Kevin?
Extremely well, thank you, Madeline, and thanks for the opportunity.
Georges River Council with the new name now.
Georges River Council, and proud to have the position of Mayor of that wonderful organisation.
And it's really lovely to have you because it gives us a different perspective of our neighbouring shire. So I just want to run through a couple of things with you, and it's so great to get your perspective on things. When lockdown happened, obviously the council went into what do we do? You own a lot of property. You own obviously all the kindergartens, all the parks, all that sort of thing. How did you approach that with your staff?
Our senior staff who started having literally management meetings, COVID-19 meetings, senior staff and various managers, IT, etc., every morning, basically putting in the daily strategy, because it seems like eons ago, but everything was changing so quickly. So there'd be public health orders issued. Originally it was for 50 people in gatherings, and then the social distancing and all the different changes that came in sequentially, I should say, on top of each other, and we had to deal with those as they came. So again, you talk about something like playgrounds. It was a case of the public order came out, so we've got 120 something playgrounds that all had to be closed off. From literally putting locks on gates to putting tape around equipment to make sure that the community knew that it was literally out of bounds, because while we all think that everyone gets the news and knows the news, you've still got to put in the necessary measures. Also, of course, childcare centres. As you say, we've got 5 childcare centres that we provide for the community. All of a sudden there was a drop-off in numbers. People, and again, that happened over a period of time, people withdrawing their children as their concerns heightened. And we had to deal with staff, and then a little bit further down the track, libraries were closed.
Yes.
We had to move into a situation, you'd know the Marana Entertainment Centre very well. We have bookings there, and generally if you try to make a booking, you'd need to do it 6 months in advance, because it's we then have still got a rolling 1 month's notice of cancellations, refunds of booking fees,
all the Stedfords and everything like that.
Exactly, and I just had a group the other day who were organising, would you believe, a bushfire fundraiser, which they'd put together from January, and that was going to take place in April. Obviously we've refunded their money, but yeah, those types of things. Yeah.
Did you start putting people working from home?
Yes, that was another part of it. In terms of staff, we came up with a strategy. Not we, I should say. The staff, the management team came up with a strategy for working from home. Who could work from home? Who was required to work from the office? What tasks were statutorily required to be completed by council? Staff that needed to be at council and to be available. So we've got now something like 240 staff from memory, I think.
So did you actually stand people down, or did you look at other strategies?
We've looked at other strategies. Again, part of our commitment was to try and not only maintain our services in every area that we could and maintain capacity, but also to maintain work opportunities for staff. Now, physically that is not completely possible, particularly when you take in, and we need to recognise that we still have staff who are over 60 and in some cases over 70 years of age, and looking at some of the communications we received at the time, they had to be offered the opportunity to take special leave, which some have done. Some have decided they wanted to keep working. So we looked at, as I say, redeployment opportunities. There's a lot of staff, events staff, entertainment centre staff, library staff, childcare staff that's becoming underemployed, to put them into other occupations where we could, as I say, maintain services and maintain work wherever we could for our staff. Some have taken special leave, so they're still being paid. But yeah, we had to look at.
So you don't get JobKeeper though? So
no, we haven't received JobKeeper, and again, straight up, we found that our childcare centres were also impacted, because the federal government said they'd provide free childcare, but by the way, councils
Have
actually
to
pay for it.
Right.
And
So looking at those strategies then, did you still go ahead and have council meetings at council?
our last council meeting at council was in March, I think the 23rd of March, which was the day that a lot of things, that was the day that sort of pubs and clubs, restaurants were closed
down.
So we took the decision to have a socially distanced council meeting. So we had the councillors spread out further than they normally would be, senior staff spread out across the room, and basically we cut that meeting to, I think it was about 20 minutes. Okay. So we just took the items that had to be dealt with there and then, and the rest were deferred.
So development proposals, DAs, that sort of thing, has that been put on hold?
No.
For the time being? Or?
No. Well, DAs are still being assessed by council staff. Again, that's an area where we've absolutely maintained service. Ones that are contentious go to the local planning panel because the council laws don't make those determinations anymore anyway. So, yeah, we've had to, as I say, trying to keep things moving for our community as much as possible.
I just want to talk to you also about culturally, because in your area of Georges River Council, you have a lot of different cultural backgrounds all living in that one area. Did you do anything differently than, say, our Mayor of Sutherland Shire did, or in the city? Was there anything else that you saw that you had to do as the Mayor or the Council with those different communities?
Not so much. I mean, you're right. We have a significant Asian community, particularly in and around Hurstville, as has been shown over many years with the success of our Lunar New Year Festival, which took place just before this impact.
Which is huge, right?
Yeah, 40 to 50,000 people. Not quite 50,000 this year because it was raining, but still a very very big function. So a big community. But that community had been impacted earlier because of the impacts in China. And many families had been back to visit relatives in China. So, in fact, when you look at the numbers, they put out those maps of various communities, how many people in the Sutherland Shire, how many people in Georges River, and in fact, how many people in specific suburbs.
Well, Hurstville was one of the major ones, right?
But Hurstville's numbers were, in fact, the lowest of all. Lugano and Peakhurst had a higher number than actually Hurstville. Okay. And as much as anything, because I think people from the Asian background, particularly the Chinese background, were socially distancing and undertaking all those types of measures before they were brought in by the federal government.
Right. So did you find, though, when you were letting people know of what the closures and everything, did you take it a different angle than any other council, or did you just stay as as in Sutherland Shire, for instance?
No, well, to be truthful, I don't know what Sutherland Shire did in detail, but we've taken the attitude. Now, we obviously put things out in different languages, not just Chinese, but a number of languages to our community. But we've taken the attitude of trying to get as much information into our community broadly to try and, for a number of reasons. First and most importantly, the most significant message that we could send to our community was a positive one, and that is to support each other, to work with each other. That we are a community. Exactly right, to do what we can. So, and just as a segue from there, we've done a number of things to promote, for instance, our local businesses. One of the reasons we were keen for as long as possible to keep our staff, and we had social distancing with our staff, we actually took the Miranda Auditorium and put it into office space so we could spread our staff out when we were under those criteria. And we wanted to keep our staff in Hurstville for as long as possible so they could support the businesses in Hurstville that had lost their restaurant trade and, were losing their, coffee trade and all that sort of stuff.
Well, what do you mean by that? What were you actually doing that was supporting those businesses?
Well, by having people actually working in Hurstville, keeping people working in Hurstville, they still go out for their lunch, they still go out for their coffee, all that sort of thing. It's all about numbers, isn't it? The more people you've got, the more opportunity you've got. On top of that, we also introduced where, say, a restaurant would have just a dining opportunity, because that was not provided. We allowed those restaurants to change to takeaway. brought in opportunities for that.
Just having a look at the development plans of Georges River Council. Obviously you've got those in place, and now we've got another year added on to the council elections and things like that. Do you see any of your plans that you have, if you could just quickly run us through what you had in place and that anything you might be changing due to the lack of income that has been affected the council? Or do you see that as an older council and a more established council that you won't have to change very much?
Look, we've had to cut back a number of our capital programs for next year. A little bit COVID related, a little bit related to our own fiscal situation, but at the same time we've cut back because we want to maintain staff levels, we want to maintain service levels. And we've also undertaken a lot of capital projects in the last 3 years, significant projects within our community. So, we've had to think about into our budget, which is out on exhibition now. We've cut back, as I say.
So you won't see further cutbacks due to
No, well, not at this stage. Again, our income's obviously been reduced, and our income's reduced in a number of areas. Being a lover of rugby league, as I know you are, and a great supporter of our local rugby league teams, you'd know that the Dragons and the Sharks, and for that matter,
we'll all be playing.
In another code, Sydney FC use Netstrata Jubilee as their home ground. That income has been taken away from us at the moment, and even when it comes back from the 28th of May for the Sharks and the Dragons, and I'm not sure when Sydney FC will continue there, they're fixtures that we would have had in, and obviously there's a profit component in that for us. So we've lost that, but also our commercial tenancies. Some of those people have been impacted significantly. Things like our Hurstville Aquatic Leisure Centre.
Yes, they will come under you.
That's exactly right. So that's been closed. That is the most used swimming complex in the whole of Sydney. So all that's been taken, that income's been taken away, but more importantly, it's been taken away from use by the community. So for the gym and the pool and all that sort of stuff. So, and again, we've got, as I say, commercial tenancies where people aren't able to operate their businesses. And even something as simple as people who rent part of a footpath office.
Right.
We've said, well, you can't use it. We're not charging you.
Right. So therefore, that affects your income coming into the council.
Absolutely.
That brings me also to that you're not only looking after the sporting and everything areas. You also are a community charity, not-for-profit, helping a lot of the not-for-profits within that area. Will that be changing for you as a council going forward as well too?
Well, we're looking at that. A number of those not-for-profits do use our facilities. Now, many of those, I understand, their Commonwealth or state government grants have been maintained.
That's correct.
So, with that being the case, I hope that they'll still be able to pay, and it's very much a subsidised rent that we provide for them anyway. So, we're looking at each one of those.
What about your events though? Because you're a very dynamic council and have some fantastic events. Yep. Have you put all of them on hold, or has that decision been made between here and Christmas?
No, as I say, we're looking at it on a month-to-month basis.
Right.
And my attitude is, obviously, you have to prepare, but let's not think think ahead, but not jump off the cliff too early. So we'll wait and see, because there's events of different sizes that we put on, whether it's, we've got a wonderful museum and gallery in McMahon Street there, beautiful building, and there's a number of smaller
Cars
events
Park,
there. Cars Park, we've
beautiful.
got all those types of things. So we'll obviously wait and see what the public health orders are. Obviously the National Cabinet is looking at easing restrictions, and we don't know where they're going to go. So we'll just take every decision as it comes.
So Kevin, tell me then, out of everything that's happened, like personally and as a business person that you're running Georges River, what would you take out of this experience now, as of today? What would you like to see still implemented within the council or the community? And we'll leave out the rest that we haven't been too successful at doing, or that it's been really hard to manage. What would you take forward and go, I hope this really stays in our community?
Firstly, it's not me, I'm only the mayor. I give all credit to our General Manager, Gail Connolly, and the leadership that she's provided with her management team, who are working extremely hard in very difficult circumstances, keeping tabs on all the things that their staff are doing and all the things and the changes that are happening, as we said earlier, quite quickly, and they're very much on top of that, and I give them enormous credit for that. As I say, I just show up and talk occasionally. So give credit where credit is due. I think the most important thing to come out of this is the theme, and it was a theme used by the Salvation Army for their Red Shield Appeal, which sadly is on in a different form this year as well. And that's we're all in this together. And I think that theme is an imperative for communities going forward, because we need to recognise that we are there to support each other no matter what the circumstance. And your organisation has for years, well back to your father's time, been very much about that, helping people in the community who need support. This is, a most unusual, difficult circumstance, but as a community, I think we're coming through it pretty well. Now, it's easy for me to say that. I'm still getting paid, I suppose. A lot of people aren't. But, we need to obviously do what we can to help those people. We need to keep helping everyone. But we also need, as organisations, to recognise there are different ways that work can be undertaken. It is from home or whatever. But at the same time, I think one of the things I've seen, and as much as anything else, I've got a 24-year-old son who's a solicitor who's been working from home. I think this is his 7th week now. And I think he longs just for the opportunity to get into an office and talk to like-minded people and not just his mother and father. So there needs to be a balance. But as I say, I think there will be more opportunities for people to work from home.
There's a new vulnerable, isn't there?
Absolutely.
We know the vulnerable in our community as it stands, but this has brought a new vulnerability to business people that would not normally have had that sort of open wound happening, and being so open about it, talking to people about it and reaching out. And that's one thing that I've seen, that we're so blessed to be in a society that and a country that are actually reaching out to other people and asking, are you okay?
Are you okay? And the other thing is, I think we should learn, if you look at, and I won't quote obvious examples overseas, but we are very fortunate to live in a country where the federal government and the state government have made difficult decisions, and they've taken those decisions, but the community as a whole has come on board. We haven't seen people rioting because, or they don't want to be in lockdown.
Yes, true.
Australians have accepted that the only way to be successful here is to work together. Tragically, 90-something people have lost their lives, but in the United Kingdom, that's 30,000. In the United States, that's 70,000. We feel for the families of those 90-something people.
Definitely.
But at the same time, Australians have accepted the circumstances, they've understood what the rules needed to be, and they've played by those rules. And I think in the great majority of cases, they've done that, and we should be complimentary to all in our community who have done that.
Totally agree. Thank you very much, Kevin Greene. I'd really like to thank you for being involved with the Tynan Motor Group. You've been a great supporter of the Michael Tynan Memorial Challenge as well, so I'd like to thank you very much. And they're in very good hands over at Georges River Council with you being their mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline.
Very good.